Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about another game that I missed in my adolescence, Turok 64. And as you can probably tell from the thumbnail, didn't go well, didn't go great. This was, however, a completely blind playthrough. I knew nothing about Turok going into this outside of the fact that it was a first-person shooter on a console ill-designed for first-person shooters, so some retro clunk was sure to be present. But aside from that, I'd honestly heard nothing but great things about Turok 64, so was eager to see for myself what lay ahead. So let's dive deep into the Lost Lands and see if we can't hunt down the answers in this retro classic. If you find yourself enjoying the content on this channel, please do remember to like and subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. Let's do it. Now, my first thoughts upon entering the game world were those of confusion. Turok provided literally zero setup for anything that was going on. You press start, you spawn in, you're handed a gun, and you're directed to shoot anything that moves. When I write the script for these videos, I'll typically jot down bullet points as I play and return to expand on them later. Well, here are those early bullet points from my first couple of hours. A few play sessions in, and the questions were really starting to pile up from both a narrative and a gameplay standpoint, which is when I remembered these older games typically came with manuals, and these manuals provided plot exposition, gameplay tips, breakdown of mechanics, enemy descriptions, so on and so forth. So I actually decided to go online and look up a digital manual of Turok 64. And wouldn't you know it, Turok is he's a comic book superhero, and I never would have thought that going into this game. So the story is like this. Turok is like a title, I guess, that is passed down from user to user. Each individual that inherits the power of Turok is tasked with watching over a place called the Lost Lands. The Lost Lands are essentially an alternate dimension where a bunch of evil shit is kept locked away. Aliens, cyborgs, corrupted dinosaurs for whatever reason. I don't know, man, a bunch of evildoers, and they're all trying to escape this prison in order to invade Earth, which is why Turok must always stand guard to keep their plans from coming to fruition. I just gotta say, absolutely nothing about the gameplay would have communicated this story to me, but I did get a good chuckle out of the absurdity of it all. Plus, I just love when manuals do stuff like this, have that little comic book strip. Reminds me of Comic Zone that does the same thing. Makes for a fun read, entertaining stuff. So gets a couple points for that, I guess. Of course, it also gave me tips like what all the different pickups did, the different enemies I'll be facing, and specifics on one weapon in particular, the Chronoscepter, a legendary super weapon that can be acquired by finding the hidden pieces on each stage. So after that old school education, I felt much more comfortable with what was going on in the game. And at this point, the narrative has essentially been covered. There's like nothing else to add from here on out. And so next we can just talk about the controls, because I was initially terrified at what I had found. So you hold the N64 controller as you typically would. Left hand on the joystick, right hand on the buttons. Now, what I had expected was a Doom style of tank controls with the shoulder buttons for strafing left and right. What I got was a nightmare. Aiming with the joystick and moving your character with the C buttons as if it were a D-pad. And the aiming was inverted, so pushing up made you look down, pulling down made you look up. Obviously, it was very popular at the time. Thank goodness it is now extinct. This also meant using my left hand to aim and right hand to move the character, which of course is backwards to the modern standard we've all trained with for decades now. I came to love older control styles like the tank controls of the original Resident Evil games. In fact, I thought they were an asset to the gameplay and feel of those titles. But this was just objectively clunky, and there was nothing about it that had any edge over the modern controls of today. Now, in the options menu, you can actually reverse these controls so that your left hand moves the character with the D-pad and your right uses the joystick, but by the time I discovered this, I had already mostly gotten used to the default style, plus I just could not manipulate the joystick as well with my right thumb. Maybe it's just years and years of holding the N64 controller a certain way, but for whatever reason, my right thumb was just incapable and it felt really uncomfortable. Also, The aiming did that thing where if you're looking in a certain direction and let go of the joystick, it automatically pulls your crosshairs back to the middle of the screen. I think overall this was a good thing. I don't think it'd be at all playable without it, to be honest, but it did make aiming up or down a bit more sensitive, as you really had to be precise with your joystick controls lest your aim be pulled back to the center. But whatever, as long as the game mostly consisted of running on flat surfaces and shooting bad guys, I didn't see it being too much of an issue. Yeah, definitely didn't jinx myself with that one, but I do need to give credit where credit is due. The gunplay is good. It feels impactful. We say it all the time with shooters, right? It feels impactful, and I don't really know a great way to define what impactful means. You just kind of know it when you see it. And Turok definitely has it. The variety of weapons is really nice, from a knife to a handgun, assault rifles, shotguns, grenade launchers, alien weapons. They all sound, feel good, and they all look good. And the last thing I'll probably say on the combat front is the bosses are okay. I think they're a fun spectacle, some really cool designs there. I wouldn't necessarily call them fun. I felt like the biggest challenge was just me fighting with the controls, trying to hit the boss. That said, it was a decent breakup from the rest of the game, the monotony of going through these levels. Visually, I thought the game looked pretty good. Surprised me a little bit with some of the great death animations, and once you sprinkled on the sound design, I was really impressed. Hell yeah. Are these guys on the same side as the dinosaurs? Or, dude, that death animation was legit. And this dinosaur just spawned out of, like, the heavens. What is going on? Jungles, Aztec temples, treetop villages, caves, underwater sections, and dangerous mountain platforms. The maps were dotted with foliage, totem poles, destroyed huts, and pyramids that set the atmosphere, along with different skyboxes from vibrant blues to smog-covered vistas. The environmental variety was just really good, and they never stuck with one archetype for too long. Now, the draw distance is another story. At first, I saw this giant ever-present wall of fog and said, okay, that's pretty neat. Obviously, this was put in place to compensate for the console's lack of rendering capabilities. This will ensure a smooth frame rate experience while also pairing nicely as an aesthetic choice for the jungle setting. Then I played a few more hours and said, this is fucking awful. I fully understand why it's there, but it didn't make my nearsightedness any less annoying. And I know I'm not the only one, because the Turok remaster actually gives you the option to toggle off the fog. Sounds incredible. But for me, the main frustrating aspect was the devs' desire to create these larger open areas instead of a more linear corridor shooter. The levels were surprisingly huge at times and would offer 2, 3, or 4 different paths for the player to choose from, on top of really well hidden secret locations that you needed to keep an eye out for, as they usually contained super helpful items or power-ups. The poor draw distance made this a bit of a nightmare. Let me paint a scenario that happened to me time and time again. I'm running through an open area and bump into a temple. Great. This is a very unique and recognizable structure. I'll take a mental note of this and try to use it as a point of reference as I map out this area in my head. So I start heading in a new direction, taking note of anything I can use to piece together the section of the level. But along the way, I take several turns, platform to higher and lower elevations, get turned around in several battles with enemies, and before you know it, have no idea what direction I came from. And while I took several mental images of the area, they're all jumbled up in my head, not connecting in any coherent way that informs me of the entire map's layout. Turok does include a map, which I'll give some points for. It displays over the screen mid-gameplay, and it did help quite a bit. Just not enough. Its own range is limited, so you can never see where you are in the grander stage, and therefore doesn't fix the problems I was having. So one might say I should slow down, really take my time, and yeah, that would be great. But something that gets in the way of this is the constant respawning enemies. I'm not sure if they're on a specific timer, but enemies will sometimes respawn mere seconds after dying. So while I'm trying to take in my surroundings, raptors, robots, and rival tribesmen are kicking my shit in. I could take them down over and over again, but the game has limited ammo drops, so resource management, it is a thing. And on top of that, they'll be slowly ticking away at my health, which, just in case you're new to games, is not good. As you can see, exploration and piecing together the entire map's layout was very stressful for me. I think this could be mostly rectified by removing enemy respawns. Clear an area out and you're free to explore to your heart's desire. Or the more drastic route would be to make the game much more linear and cut the need for extensive exploration. A corridor shooter would be much easier to navigate for obvious reasons, and the smaller map area would negate the need for a fog wall altogether. You could still have some side areas that contain upgrade goodies to scratch that exploration itch, but they'd be much more contained and finished in a snap before spitting you back onto the main route. But again, the dev's original vision obviously was that of larger open areas and exploration, and I respect that. So I think if you just cut enemy respawns altogether or increase the time between respawns drastically, we'll call it even. I feel like that'd be a good solution. But what I just talked about was a more subjective complaint, I suppose. I think some players probably enjoyed the hard to master controls and the foggy can't see shit exploration, but now I'll make an objective statement. This game is really hard.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
And not in a fun, I'm gonna overcome this challenge kind of way, but in the I'm so frustrated and want to curl up in the fetal position and cry kind of way. I'll start with the least egregious example and pile on from there. Health and ammo are a bit of a hot commodity. As I said earlier, they are limited from level to level, and especially the health can feel scarce. You'll find these little health nuggets scattered about that heal you for 2 hit points a pop. I know, very generous. If you spot an animal like a wild boar or a deer, you can shoot them for some of these nuggets too, but honestly, I feel like it's kind of a waste of ammo. They don't give you hardly anything at all. Enemies will occasionally drop a couple, which typically doesn't make up for how much damage they did to you in the first place, but you take what you can get. There are some blue, red, and golden health nuggets that will heal you for 25 hit points, bring you up to full health, or heal you above the usual 100 HP cap. These, however, are rare and are typically hidden in secret caves or bonus levels. But my goodness, when the standard health nugget only provides 2 HP at a time, once my health dropped, I found it really difficult to climb back to a comfortable level. Constantly getting poked by enemies made me feel like I would find 6 health, but get hit for 9. Find 12 health, but get hit for 24. Always going in the wrong direction once all was said and done. Mentally taxing. Again, this is the least egregious aspect of the game's difficulty that could ultimately boil down to get good. But alright, we're another step closer to my ultimate grief. Next, we have the AI and what I would consider some BS enemy positioning from the developers. So we already talked about the constant respawning of enemies, but one aspect of that I neglected to mention was that the enemies can open fire before they've even fully spawned in. So even if you see a respawn incoming, they can and will catch you off guard by attacking before they've even finished the respawn animation. The developers also like to position enemies in cheeky spots around the map. You'll turn a corner and bam! You're getting riddled with bullets before you even know what is going on. And the enemies lock onto you so fast. There were times where I had to inch my way around corners to try and get the first shot off, and it was still a flip of the coin. Or maybe you climb up a ladder and before you've even had a chance to register your surroundings, you're already getting pelted by some far-off enemy at the edge of the damn fog wall. It's times like these that made it so difficult, as I mentioned, to keep your health in the green. So for this next point, I don't really have an easy way to say it, so I'm just gonna come out and say it. This game, it's got platforming. It's got a hell of a lot of platforming. Holy shit. I cannot think of a genre more ill-fitted to feature platforming sections such as these than an N64 first-person shooter. And when I say platforming section, I don't mean 2 or 3 jumps and you're done. We're talking gauntlets that can stretch for 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe even longer. I don't know, I never officially timed myself. But when it's time to platform, It's time to fucking platform. At baseline, the controls make this very clunky and difficult. That should be obvious, but the jumps vary distances and heights, things I found very difficult to judge from the dated first-person perspective. They'll have enemies appear sporadically or shoot you from higher vantage points. But worst of all, the absolute most egregious, the most mind-numbing and unforgivable aspect of Turok 64's gameplay. That's right, not just the platforming, but the worst thing about the entire game. One slip, and you're dead. One slip up, one mistake made during these massive string of dice roll jumps, and you are dead. And it's not like Crash Bandicoot where you say, oh, well, there goes one of my 58 lives. I guess I'll just try again. You've got 3 lives. You've got 3 lives, and if you can't make that stretch, you're starting over and you're gonna do it again. And the fix to this issue is so painfully simple. If I fall off a cliff, just take away 10 health and place me back onto the ledge from which I fell. These sections go on for so long and the jumps are so dangerous, it's all but guaranteed you're going to slip eventually. And for the punishment to be instant death, and with that, I found myself mentally exhausted after each play session. I would have fun in spurts, but then these would ultimately be overshadowed by, I'll put it this way, Turok was 90% fun, 7% tough, and 3% so bad that it ruined all the fun. And with a few tweaks here and there, I feel like Turok 64 could have been like a top tier retro title that I could gladly recommend, but as it stands, I will never play this game again. And I was going to make this a trilogy of videos with Turok 1, 2, and 3, but you guys let me know. Is Turok 2 and 3 just kind of more of the same? Is it even worth my time? Probably not. Probably not. Oh well. At least the music was pretty good.